Hey, look what I bought! Well, hey jerks, this is Hey, look what I bought. My primary job, my primary thing that I do is I'm a photographer, videographer, and filmmaker, whatever. So there are cameras that I use for that. This is one of the cameras. This is my newer camera that I use for video, the GH4. It's really super awesome. Can't wait to get a GH5. When you're making films, one of the first things when you're doing video, one of the things that's super important is stability, stabilization, stuff like that. So there are, you can put it on a tripod. You can have actual stabilization in your camera or in your lenses. But what you really want is some sort of a gimbal, some sort of a stedicam type thing. Now, if you don't have a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot of money back when I was doing this the first time, you get online and you look up and you're like, hey, how do I make something without spending $600 on something? And then you come up with something like this. This is iteration 2 of this do-it-yourself bullshit that I thought I could make. I used this like twice and realized pretty fucking quick that this is a hunk of shit. And also, at the bottom here, I have 2.5 pound weights that are kind of stabilizing this top part. So right now, we're looking at about 6 pounds for this thing. You add this, that's another 2 pounds. So now we're at like 8 pounds. Sometimes I want to use this stinking big lens, which is an extra pound over top of that, and then you're looking at about a 9-pound rig that you're trying to both operate and follow action and stuff like that. And this thing swings around. It's crap is what it is. Step 2, which is this thing right here. This is a proper glide cam, and this is a good ball bearing system, a good weight system. It has a lot of adjustability, and then the camera obviously sits on top of that, and you're good to go. Now, this takes a lot of practice to use, and it's not easy. The learning curve is pretty steep. A lot of times you have to do this two-handed, so you're constantly kind of like trying to figure out what you're doing. If you want to like guide the camera in a different direction, you have to do that kind of with your fingers here. And again, it's heavy. So this thing is probably 5-6 pounds. You throw the camera on top of it and you're good to go for maybe 2 or 3 minutes at a time. And then you got to put this thing down because your arm is just wasted. But hopefully what I bought is going to solve some of my problems. So this is going to be kind of an unboxing as well. This just came today, so we're going to open it up and kind of look at what it is and open it, see if it works. This is called the I don't even really know how to pronounce it, but it's called the Zhiyun crane, and this is version 2 of the Zhiyun crane. All right, so very cool. It comes in a travel box, which is super cool because when I am going on locations to work, it's really super nice that this comes in its own little case. So what do we have in here? We have a cleaning cloth and some instructions that I am not going to read. This is a connector plate. This is one of the upgrades from the previous version of this. It is a quick release plate. It'll slide right into the gimbal piece here. We've got a couple of batteries, we've got a battery charger, some screws, and here is the meat and potatoes of this thing. Basically what you do is, I'm going to do this in a minute, but you screw on the handle after you put the batteries in. And then you have some controls on here, so that's going to be your controller. So you have you can do things with the camera once it's on there. All right, and here's what we're looking at. This is how it's going to eventually end up, like this when I turn it on. But so we have to do a couple of things first, and one of those things that we have to do first is put the camera on there and then balance it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the batteries in here and then at least try to get things sort of started. I don't know how the batteries go in. I'm just going to guess, and then it's either going to work or it's not going to work. All right, look at that thing flopping around. How silly. All right, there's a power button. Did I put them in backwards? Let's try them this way. There, that's what it is. Okay. All right, so there we have it. I can feel the motors working. I'm gonna put a camera on here, see if I can't get it to balance. Now, it's very nice that this thing has a 1/4-inch screw on the back here, which means I can put it on any normal tripod or light stand and be able to work with it without having to worry about try to balance it while I'm holding it. So that's a bonus. This place is a mess. I'm guessing this goes on here. No, I'm not going to read the instructions. Fuck instructions. And then I guess this thing probably goes on the camera. And then supposedly this, all right, so that should click in. All right, so that's a mess. All right, so check this out. I've zoomed in here so you're gonna be able to see me balancing this properly for the first time. Now, this is the quick release that it came with, and what I discovered was this doesn't seem to work very well with this very light camera, the GH4. I'm sure it would work far better with this camera, which is far heavier, and I'll explain things in just a second. But here's how we're gonna do this to balance things. We're not gonna use the plate, we're just going to stick this onto the plate just as, just bare. Okay. When you're balancing it, you want to, dang it, you want to have your camera basically in use mode. So how, you know, your screen would be out. If that's what you're going to be doing, the screen's going to be out. And so that's basically how things are going to work. Now, you have to balance this on 3 axes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of hold it in place like here, and we're going to see, whoops, okay, so you see how that's really top heavy? It'll just flop around like that. This right here means it's too high? Yeah, it's too high or too low. It's too, I don't know, it's one of these things. Too high. So let's drop this a little bit and then we'll play around with it. Oh, now it's far too low. So we'll put it back up. And eventually the idea is you want to get it to a point where it will kind of stay where you put it. That's almost there. We'll fine tune it in a minute. Okay, now next one we'll do is the left and the right. So that's going to be this guy right up here. Unless we can move this any closer to the, no, that's as close as it goes. So we'll undo this one and we'll move this over here. We'll try, nope, that's too far. Okay. That's better. We're almost there. Okay, so we'll move this over just a hair. Good, we pretty much have it. Okay. While we're at it, we will go ahead and figure out. Okay, so it's a little too far forward, so you're gonna release this thing back here, and that is going to be able to move it back ever so slightly. No, that's too far. This is the tough part. You have to kind of just spend some time getting all these axes correct. But once you get it, whoops, it's probably too far. Once you get it, yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, the third way you have to do this is taking it off of this thing. And you kind of hold it to the side and you'll see that, oh, it's way top heavy going this way. So you'll undo this third thing right here. I'm going to drop it a bit, or is that dropping it? I'm not really sure. No, that's way the wrong way. There we go. No, it's still bottom heavy. Whoa, I accidentally turned it on. Let's not do that. Okay. And we're going to pull this way out here. See if that helped. Sure did. Okay, so that is almost perfect. For demonstration purposes, we're going to call that close enough because now we're gonna turn this on and it should steady itself. The reason why you're balancing this thing is so that the motors have a lot less work to do. So I've turned it on, it has found balance, and now it's balanced. So that's the quick way of how to set this thing up, balance it to begin with. And now I'm going to show you some of the cool things that it does. Okay, so real quickly, this thing is pretty light. I feel like I could use it for especially certainly at an arm's length for a second or two. This is something I could never do with this thing over here. This thing by itself, and although there are a couple of extra plates on it, that thing is far heavier than this thing with the camera on it. Selfie mode. Selfie mode. Selfie mode. Hey, selfie mode. 1, 2, 3. Apparently you have to click it slower or else it doesn't really understand what selfie mode is. I'm gonna have to get some time in with this to kind of figure out how exactly this works, what I can expect to get out of it. I understand that you have to change the way you walk with it as well. You can't just walk with it because this doesn't take out any Z direction movement. So if you're going like this with this thing, if that's the way that's going to be. But so far, my impressions are pretty cool. Here are the controls. You have a joystick that turns it left and right, and I believe you can also pan up and down, and that's pretty cool. And that seems to only work in the one mode, because if I switch the mode, which is hitting that button right there, okay, now, well, don't sleep, no, don't sleep. Okay, now, if I were to turn this, it turns with that, and the controller doesn't seem to do anything. Okay, it'll still pan up and pan down. So that's a thing. I hit the mode again. Does it do? Yeah, now it goes like that. And will it go up and down? It will. Good. So that's pretty cool. So you put it in one mode, and this doesn't do anything, but you can now pan around the room with this thing. Oh, and is it? Oh my gosh! And it's also oh my gosh! It's an actual joystick. So you push it a little, and it moves a little. You push it a lot, and it moves a lot. So you can do slow pans with it. All right, let's go back to this mode. So this doesn't do anything. This doesn't do anything. This does do something. And that's nice. Okay, and then with a 3 press, we're back to selfie mode here. Pretty cool. The one last cool thing that this has is it's got a zoom button on it. Now, the zoom button doesn't do anything unless you plug a micro into this and it can go into your camera. It will only work, I think, on some Sony cameras that have the zoom functionality built right into the bodies of their cameras. There may be a day where a firmware update will create this might be a focus button where I can run this into the camera and this will control the focus of where the camera is focused. All right, so something else that's cool about this gimbal, this Steadicam, is that it comes with an app. Well, it doesn't come with an app, you have to download it. So you would turn it on, you turn this thing on. It's actually got Bluetooth, so it will talk to your app right here. And let me go to, you have to say connect. You tell it to connect. It is now connected. And what this does is it'll tell you about the battery life still in the handle. But what's cooler than that is it will do controls. So if I have this on a tripod or something like that, I can tell it to go up and down, and these are just little joysticks, virtual joysticks on there. You can tell it to go back home. You can also switch the mode. So right now it's on, what mode is that? That's on follow mode. What follow mode is basically if I turn the handle, which is what I'm doing right now, the camera follows, or the gimbal follows my turn. So you can also put this on lock mode. So right now it's on lock mode, and I can turn the handle and it doesn't move. So it knows to turn with that. What's also cool is that I have an extra thing over here. Now it's going to turn, and I can go up and down with it. I can do everything that I wanted to ever do with a camera on a tripod if I'm across the room or whatever. So let's go back to center. And then there's, what the hell? There's full. And what full does is it will rotate back and forth. Not rotate, but Dutch angle it, which is kind of cool because what it'll also do is if I go down like this, it'll follow me down. If I come back up, it'll follow me up. If I turn, so that's what full means. That means whatever my hand is doing, whatever my wrist is telling it to do, it'll follow. And the control on this just means that it's going to Dutch angle for some reason. I don't know why it does that. It will also spin around to me if I hit that spin around button. It's pretty much like the flip the camera button on your phone. So let's flip it back. And then I guess I'll go back to just the follow mode. So it also has a power button on there, so you can power it off. One other cool thing that I didn't find out about until later was that on the joystick itself, not the joystick, on the handle, there is the power button is dual purpose, and what happens is you can go into the app here. What you can see here is I've got it set up to, come on now focus, to be a Panasonic camera, and it's also set on weak. By the way, it took me a minute. I set this on strong for some dumb reason, and when I tried using this again, this started freaking out. And I could not figure out why it was freaking out. It was freaking out because that strength right there at the very bottom, and I didn't really figure this out until I was playing around with the app. So there's weak, medium, and strong, and what that has to do with is how heavy the camera is that you're putting on there. Now I think this thing can handle up to like 4 pounds. Pretty heavy setup. But the motors you want to, the motors are either strong, weak, or medium. So depending on how heavy a camera is there, if it's a heavy camera, you want to put on strong. I put them on strong with a light camera, and it started freaking out. I can't even make it jump around as much as it was doing. It was basically vibrating super fast because it was expecting a heavy payload, and this is a very light payload. So for about an hour, I was freaking out because I thought I had already broke my brand new toy. But luckily I figured out it was just you have to put it back on weak for a light camera. And because I put this heavy camera on there and everything was fine, everything worked great. I was like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, so the reason why you put Panasonic in there is because if you plug in a micro USB from this little thing on this motor to the micro USB on the camera, then the power button on here, if you press it once, I think, it will take a photograph If you press it twice, it starts the video. Pretty cool that you don't have to physically touch the camera because it's going to be all stabilized and set and ready. So that's really cool that they added that little functionality into it. I was considering buying a DJI Osmo, and I was going to get the Zenmuse X5. That is a fully kind of isolated thing. So they have their own camera on their own gimbal. The thing that I didn't necessarily like about it was I can put any camera I want on top of this thing. And I already have a couple cameras. I don't need to buy another camera that I'm planning to use for Steadicam work when I could just buy the crane gimbal, and that would be, whoa, look out. That would be everything I would need to use. Plus, I'm also considering buying the next step up from this Panasonic, the GH5. So that's going to be a lot of money that I'd be spending, especially if I can use all the cameras on this. The other thing, these motors don't make any sound really. You can't hear anything going on. That is a complaint about the Osmo, is that the motors, while the motors don't make any noise, the camera has a fan on it that makes a lot of noise, and that's not necessarily what you want for filmmaking. Look at my face. Look at my face. Hi. The prices I was looking at, the X5 would have been, I don't know, I think $1,100 or something like that. They sell an Osmo for $600 and some dollars, very similar to the same price as this thing, although it's not nearly the same quality as, say, one of these cameras that I use. And hopefully I'll be showing you some videos that I do soon. Okay, if I have one problem only, it is, oh, this doesn't want to move. Fuck. Okay, how about if I turn it this way? Okay. So, right here, it hits the base. That's the only place it hits the base, and it doesn't always do it depending on where I am. It just depends on how I'm holding this thing. So you have to be a little careful how you're messing with that thing. I think it's gonna maybe be a limitation one day where I'll be trying to get that one shot and I'll just go like, oh, I hit the camera with the gimbal handle. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah, let's go back to whatever else I was doing before. So there you go. This was basically the unboxing and my initial impressions of the Zhiyun Crane version 2, and this was $650 on Amazon. And I think it's going to be worth it because I've been trying really hard to do some really smooth like pushes and some really smooth pans, and I do have a slider, which is cool. I have plenty of tripods with fluid heads, which are good too, but this gives a much more fluid, dynamic, easy thing to do. Comes in a nice case. And I'm really looking forward to making some great videos that hopefully I will show you guys soon. Again, this has been the Zhiyun version 2 crane. And thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Give me a like. Even if you don't like this video, please give me a like. Please. See you later. Bye.